Displacement and segregation of native population. The displacement and segregation of native population refer to the forced removal or relocation of indigenous or native communities from their ancestral lands and subsequent isolation or confinement into specific areas. These actions are typically driven by discriminatory policies, racial prejudice, or government mandates. The purpose of this report is to shed light on the historical and ongoing implications of displacement and segregation on the affected communities, emphasizing the need for acknowledgement, reconciliation, and inclusivity in addressing these injustices. So, what is displacement and segregation? Displacement involves physically uprooting communities from their traditional territories, disrupting their established ways of life, and relocating them to unfamiliar regions. And segregation entails isolating this population into designed areas, often isolated from the broader society, based on discriminatory beliefs, racial biases, or desire for control and domination. Effects of displacement and segregation to the population. The displacement and segregation of native population can have significant negative effects, including loss of culture, social and economic disparities, reduced access to resources, and psychological trauma. On the positive side, some argue that it might lead to economic development or improved governance, but these perceived benefits are often contested and come at a high human and social cost. It's essential to consider the historical context and perspective of affected communities to fully understand the impact. And for me, it's a bad effect because displacement and segregation to the population can cause psychological trauma and loss of culture. Since it was a bad effect, this is the way to lessen it. Help native communities. We must educate people about their history and rights, protect their land rights, include them in decisions, preserve their culture, and provide economic opportunities. Advocacy and global cooperation are essential to fight discrimination and ensure fair policies, ultimately fostering a harmonious society. Example of displacement and segregation of native population is colonialism and imperialism. Encompass the practice of stronger nation or entities extending their influence and control over weaker region or nations. A prime example of this historical trend is the European expansion into the Americas, Africa, Asia, and the Pacific Islands. In their quest for resource extraction and territorial supremacy, European colonizers enforced the involuntary uprooting and isolation of indigenous populations. This oppressive strategy left a deep mark of suffering and enduring repercussions, impacting the colonized societies and shaping the world's geopolitical dynamics.